The Haunting of Hollowbrook Manor, a Ed and Lorraine Warren fan fiction audiobook. Chapter 1, A Town in Despair. The night was cloaked in an eerie stillness as the chilling wind swept through the quiet town of Hollowbrook. The moon hung low in the sky, casting long, ghostly shadows that seemed to dance with the memories of the past. In this remote and somber corner of the world, a family huddled together in the fading warmth of their living room, their faces etched with fear and disbelief. The Andersons, longtime residents of Hollowbrook, had never been ones to believe in things beyond the veil of reality. Yet, their tranquil existence had been rudely shattered by a series of inexplicable events that defied all logic. Objects moved of their own accord, ominous whispers echoed in the empty corridors of their home, and malevolent apparitions manifested in the dead of night. It had started with subtle disturbances, a chair scraping across the floor, a whispered voice barely audible in the dark. The Andersons had dismissed these occurrences as mere coincidences, but their skepticism was soon shattered when the incidents grew bolder and more menacing. One moonless night, young Emma Anderson awoke to the sensation of icy fingers caressing her face. Her eyes darted around the room, but the only thing she saw was the faint, ethereal glow of her doll sitting on a shelf. Her scream had brought her parents, who found her trembling and terrified, her cheeks marked with the unmistakable, chilling touch of an otherworldly presence. The following days only escalated the terror. Footsteps echoed through the house when no one was there, and objects flew across the room as if propelled by an unseen force. Emma began to talk to someone only she could see, a pale figure that she described as the man in the mirror. Desperate and fearing for their daughter's sanity, the Andersons turned to the only experts they believed could help them, the renowned paranormal investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren. News of the Andersons' plight had quickly spread through the small town, and the Warrens received the call in the late hours of the night. Ed and Lorraine, who had faced countless paranormal horrors throughout their career, recognized the urgency in the Andersons' voices and the despair in their eyes. Ed, with his broad shoulders and weathered face, and Lorraine, with her piercing eyes that seemed to see beyond the physical realm, were a formidable team. They had made it their life's mission to confront the supernatural, providing comfort and relief to those tormented by forces they could not comprehend. As the Warrens prepared to leave for Hollowbrook, they knew that they were stepping into a town racked by fear and uncertainty. What awaited them was a mystery that would test the limits of their expertise and their bond as a couple. Little did they know that their arrival would mark the beginning of a terrifying journey that would lead them deep into the heart of Hollowbrook's darkness, where malevolent forces had taken root, and where the desperate cries of the Andersons were only the beginning of a much larger nightmare. Chapter 2, Unearthly Whispers. As the Warrens' car rolled into the quaint town of Hollowbrook, a palpable sense of unease hung in the air. The streets were lined with century-old houses, their facades marked by the weight of history. Flickering streetlights cast eerie, elongated shadows across the cobblestone roads, giving the impression of a place lost in time. Ed and Lorraine stepped out of their vehicle, taking a moment to survey their surroundings. Hollowbrook was a far cry from the bustling cities they often found themselves in. It was a town of secrets, whispers, and unresolved mysteries. The townspeople avoided eye contact, their faces etched with a shared dread that clung to them like a shroud. The Andersons, having learned of the Warrens' arrival, stood waiting at the town square. Their expressions were a mix of hope and trepidation, for they understood that the paranormal investigators were their last hope for salvation from the torment that had taken hold of their lives. The journey to the Andersons' home was fraught with tension, but the Warrens knew that their first stop would be Hollowbrook Manor, the epicenter of the supernatural disturbances. A place that reeked of history, pain, and unspeakable secrets. The manor loomed at the heart of the town, a daunting edifice of Gothic architecture. Ivy-clad walls stretched toward the heavens, its windows like hollow, unblinking eyes that bore witness to centuries of inexplicable phenomena. The history of this place was suffused with darkness, and the mere sight of it sent shivers down the Warrens' spines. The current owner, a man named Elias Thornton, greeted them at the entrance with an uneasy smile. His family had owned the mansion for generations, and he bore the weight of its history in his tired eyes. It was clear that he had called upon the Warrens in the hope of breaking the curse that had plagued his ancestors for centuries. Elias ushered the investigators inside, and they were immediately greeted by the imposing, dimly lit grand hall. The atmosphere within was heavy, oppressive, as if the very walls themselves whispered secrets that longed to be revealed. Lorraine, with her heightened sensitivity to the paranormal, felt an immediate chill in the air. She brushed her fingers along the ancient wallpaper, her eyes narrowing as she discerned the faintest movement beneath its surface. Unearthly whispers, like ghostly echoes from a forgotten past, danced through the corridors. She followed the ethereal voices, her steps guided by an otherworldly pull. In a room shrouded in shadows, Lorraine found an old, ornate mirror, its surface tarnished and covered in dust. It radiated an aura of malevolence that sent a shiver down her spine. She reached out, touching the glass, and the whispers grew louder, as if beckoning her to uncover their secrets. Ed watched Lorraine with concern, knowing that her gift often exposed her to the darkest aspects of the supernatural. He approached her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder, and they exchanged a knowing glance. They had entered the heart of Hollowbrook's darkness, and the journey had only just begun. The whispers within Hollowbrook Manor were only the beginning, and the Warrens understood that they were facing a force of malevolence that would test their skills and resilience like never before. The tale of Hollowbrook's haunting had only just started, and its secrets were far from willing to reveal themselves. Chapter 3: The Hidden History. With the unsettling whispers of Hollowbrook Manor echoing in their ears, the Warrens decided it was time to delve into the dark history of the mansion. Elias Thornton, the mansion's owner, had provided them with a collection of ancient records, letters, and diaries, all chronicling the enigmatic past of the place that had been a blight on his family for generations. Ed and Lorraine sat at a large oak table in the dimly lit study, surrounded by leather-bound tomes and yellowing parchment. The soft flicker of candlelight cast eerie shadows, adding to the aura of mystery that clung to the room. They meticulously combed through the historical documents, uncovering tales of malevolent events that had occurred within these walls for centuries. One of the first stories they unearthed was that of the original builder of Hollowbrook Manor, Lord Maximilian Blackwood. In the early 17th century, Blackwood was rumored to have struck a deal with dark forces in exchange for immense wealth and power. The mansion was constructed with the blood and sweat of those who had dared to cross his path, and the legacy of its malevolence had only grown over the years. In the margins of a decaying diary, the Warrens found mention of a series of gruesome deaths that had plagued the Blackwood family. The deaths were marked by cryptic symbols and ritualistic undertones, suggesting the involvement of a malevolent cult. These unsettling accounts hinted at something far more sinister lurking within the manor. The Warrens' investigation led them to the town's records, where they found hesitant mentions of generations of Hollowbrook residents who had encountered the malevolent forces that emanated from the manor. These encounters had left a trail of unsolved mysteries, destroyed lives, and shattered families. Despite their efforts to gather information, the townspeople were reluctant to discuss the mansion's dark history openly. Whispers and hushed conversations would abruptly stop when the Warrens entered a room. It was as if the town itself was fearful of confronting the sinister past that had haunted it for centuries. Yet, Ed and Lorraine persisted. They sought out the few individuals willing to share their experiences, gathering snippets of stories and personal encounters. Each account reinforced the Warrens' growing conviction that the malevolent forces at play in Hollowbrook Manor were deeply entwined with a history steeped in darkness, betrayal, and unspeakable deeds. As the days turned into weeks, the Warrens pieced together fragments of a history marked by tragedy and terror. It was a history that had, until now, remained concealed behind the imposing walls of Hollowbrook Manor, a history that held the key to understanding the malevolent entity that had been awakened. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the room, as Ed and Lorraine continued their research into the labyrinthine history of Hollowbrook Manor. The tale of Lord Maximilian Blackwood and the dark secrets that lurked within the mansion's walls was slowly beginning to take shape, providing the investigators with vital clues to the malevolent force that they sought to confront. Chapter 4: A Sinister Presence. With the knowledge of Hollowbrook Manor's history in their possession, Ed and Lorraine Warren embarked on their investigation inside the ancient mansion. As they crossed the threshold, the heavy oak doors groaned ominously, as if resisting their entry. The dimly lit foyer seemed to welcome them with a cold embrace. The walls were adorned with faded portraits of generations past, their stern gazes seemingly judging the newcomers. The scent of aged wood and memories long forgotten hung in the air, mixed with an unplaceable, earthy musk. Ed and Lorraine began their exploration of the manor room by room, guided by the lingering whispers that beckoned them deeper into the darkness. Their footsteps echoed in the cavernous hallways as they ventured into the heart of Hollowbrook's haunted history. In the grand ballroom, the first signs of supernatural phenomena became evident. As Ed examined a chandelier suspended from the ceiling, it began to sway ominously, its crystals tinkling like phantom laughter. Lorraine felt a sudden drop in temperature, her breath forming ghostly puffs in the air, as a shadowy figure flitted across the room, vanishing into the walls. Objects within the manor seemed to have a life of their own. Tables slid eerily across the floor, chairs rocked as if occupied by invisible guests, and paintings shifted in their frames. The very foundations of the mansion seemed to respond to the Warrens' presence with unbridled defiance. Lorraine, with her heightened sensitivity to the supernatural, began to experience a growing malevolent presence within the mansion. It was as if the dark history of Hollowbrook had come alive, and malevolent forces were determined to defend their secrets. The whispers she heard now transformed into chilling threats and pleas for release. In one room, they discovered a mirror adorned with cryptic symbols, each etching seemingly pulsating with malevolence. As Lorraine approached the mirror, her reflection distorted into a grotesque, twisted figure that reached out for her. She staggered back in terror, her heart pounding. As they continued to explore, Lorraine's visions intensified. She began to see apparitions of tormented souls who had suffered at the hands of the malevolent entity that dwelled within the manor. Their faces were etched with despair, and their eyes bore witness to unspeakable horrors. Despite the escalating paranormal activity, Ed and Lorraine pressed on. They knew that they were edging closer to the epicenter of the supernatural disturbances, to the heart of the malevolent entity that held Hollowbrook in its thrall. The Warrens had faced countless terrors in their careers, but the malevolent force within Hollowbrook Manor was unlike anything they had encountered before. As the day turned to night, the mansion seemed to come alive with unseen terrors. Whispers echoed through the hallways, and the air grew thick with foreboding. The Warrens could sense that they were no longer alone in the darkness, that they had intruded upon a malevolent entity's territory. The battle for the soul of Hollowbrook Manor had only just begun, and the Warrens knew that their courage and determination would be tested to the fullest in the chapters that lay ahead. Chapter 5: The Artifact's Curse. The Warrens' relentless investigation into Hollowbrook Manor had uncovered a myriad of paranormal activity, but they knew they had yet to reach the heart of the malevolent force that gripped the mansion. That pivotal moment came as they explored the manor's ornate library, a room steeped in history and secrets. Intrigued by a faint, ethereal glow emanating from an ancient bookcase, Lorraine approached it cautiously. As she touched the aged volumes, her fingers brushed over a hidden latch. The bookcase swung open with a subtle creak, revealing a concealed chamber behind it. Inside, they discovered a trove of arcane relics, but one object immediately captured their attention. It was an ornate, blood-red amulet with an intricate design of writhing serpents intertwined around a crimson gemstone. The air around the artifact felt charged with malevolence, and an unspoken understanding passed between Ed and Lorraine. This cursed object was the epicenter of the supernatural disturbances that had plagued Hollowbrook. As Lorraine reached for the amulet, the atmosphere in the chamber grew oppressive. Whispers of long-forgotten curses and incantations filled the air, each word laden with dread and menace. The amulet radiated an aura of evil that was almost palpable, and it was clear that the artifact was imbued with a dark history of its own. Elias Thornton, who had accompanied them into the chamber, recognized the amulet immediately. It was a cursed heirloom that had been passed down through generations of his family, and it was believed to have brought nothing but suffering and tragedy to those who possessed it. Ed and Lorraine listened to Elias's account of how his ancestors had become entangled with the malevolent entity tied to the amulet. They had attempted to harness the dark power within it, believing that it could grant them unimaginable wealth and influence. In their arrogance, they had inadvertently unleashed a malevolent force that had tormented the town of Hollowbrook for centuries. The amulet had become a conduit for the malevolent entity, allowing it to perpetuate its reign of terror and expand its influence. The Warrens understood that breaking the curse and freeing Hollowbrook from its torment would require a dangerous and complex ritual, one that would challenge their resolve and knowledge of the supernatural. However, as the Warrens attempted to remove the amulet from the hidden chamber, the entity that had been bound to it fought back with a ferocity that sent shockwaves through the manor. The room trembled, and the walls seemed to close in on them, as the malevolent presence sought to protect its source of power. With the amulet in hand, the Warrens knew that the battle had only just begun. The entity was not ready to let go, and they would need to confront it head-on to put an end to the supernatural disturbances that had plagued Hollowbrook for centuries. The sinister history of the cursed artifact had finally been revealed, and it was time for the Warrens to take the next step in their harrowing journey into the heart of darkness. Chapter 6: The Investigation Deepens. The moment the Warrens removed the cursed amulet from its hidden chamber, the very foundations of Hollowbrook Manor seemed to shudder in protest. The malevolent entity, bound to the accursed relic, reacted with a ferocity that was both undeniable and ominous. The Warrens knew that their journey into the supernatural had just taken a perilous turn. As Ed and Lorraine ventured deeper into the investigation, they encountered a series of unrelenting and escalating supernatural occurrences that made their earlier experiences within the manor pale in comparison. The very walls seemed to bleed with dread as they pressed on. Apparitions became bolder and more sinister, manifesting as grotesque specters that hissed malevolent curses in long-forgotten tongues. The Warrens' footsteps were dogged by an invisible presence that followed them through the manor, leaving behind an icy chill. Objects moved with increasing ferocity, hurling themselves through the air with alarming force. Lorraine's psychic visions became more vivid, revealing the tormented spirits trapped within the mansion's oppressive walls, their agony a haunting symphony that reverberated in her mind. The malevolent entity, desperate to retain its grip on the cursed amulet, began to target Ed and Lorraine directly. Their very thoughts and emotions were manipulated by the unseen force, testing the couple's faith and resolve. Ed, the pillar of strength, found himself plagued by doubts and nightmarish visions that threatened to unravel his sense of reality. Lorraine, gifted with heightened sensitivity, was tormented by relentless psychic assaults. The entity played on her deepest fears and insecurities, seeking to weaken her resolve and use her as a conduit to protect the amulet. Visions of tragedy and despair haunted her waking hours, and sleep brought no respite as the nightmares took on a tangible form within the manor's shadowed corridors. In the midst of the escalating supernatural activity, Elias Thornton, the manor's owner, became a valuable ally to the Warrens. He shared his knowledge of the mansion's layout and history, guiding them through secret passages and concealed chambers that held clues to the entity's origins. As the Warrens and Elias continued their investigation, they uncovered a series of ancient texts hidden away in the manor's secret library. These texts spoke of a ritual, a dangerous and complex incantation that would sever the entity's connection to the amulet and break the curse that had plagued Hollowbrook for centuries. However, to perform the ritual, the Warrens knew they would need to confront the malevolent entity head-on. The entity had no intention of relinquishing its hold on the cursed amulet without a fight, and the Warrens understood that they were facing a force of darkness unlike any they had encountered before. In the dimly lit chambers of Hollowbrook Manor, with each chilling encounter, the Warrens knew that they were edging closer to the ultimate confrontation. Their faith, their bond, and their unwavering determination were the only weapons they had against the malevolent entity that had haunted Hollowbrook for generations. The investigation had entered a treacherous phase, one that would test the very limits of their courage and expertise in the supernatural. Chapter 7: Desperate Measures. As the Warrens delved deeper into their investigation within Hollowbrook Manor, they uncovered a critical piece of information. The curse tied to the cursed amulet could only be broken through a dangerous and complex ritual. It was a revelation that sent shivers down their spines, for they knew that the malevolent entity would stop at nothing to prevent its release. The ritual, described in ancient texts hidden within the manor, was a dark and enigmatic process that had been used in the past by Elias Thornton's ancestors in an ill-fated attempt to control the malevolent force. It was fraught with peril, requiring intricate knowledge of ancient incantations, and had the potential to unleash untold chaos if not performed precisely. The Warrens also discovered that the ritual had to be conducted within the heart of the manor, where the amulet had been discovered. The very act of setting up the ritual would be a perilous endeavor, as it would draw the malevolent entity's attention, making their every move a game of life and death. With time running out, the malevolent entity within the manor grew stronger, its influence extending beyond the confines of Hollowbrook. Its relentless hold on the town became undeniable, leaving no corner untouched by its sinister presence. Panic and fear rippled through the town's residents as they felt the malevolence closing in. The Warrens knew that they were racing against the clock. With every passing hour, the entity's grip on the amulet grew tighter, making their mission to free Hollowbrook from its torment even more perilous. The darkness they faced was unlike any they had encountered in their extensive career as paranormal investigators. As they prepared for the dangerous ritual, Elias Thornton offered his unwavering support, guided by a determination to break the curse that had plagued his family for generations. He provided the Warrens with the resources and knowledge they needed to perform the ritual, even as he acknowledged the inherent risks. In the eerie hours leading up to the ritual, the malevolent entity made its presence felt with unprecedented ferocity. It unleashed a barrage of supernatural attacks, desperate to prevent the Warrens from proceeding. Furniture levitated, the walls bled with grotesque images, and a cacophony of tormented voices filled the air. Ed and Lorraine's faith and bond were tested like never before. The entity manipulated their emotions, dredging up their deepest fears and insecurities. It sought to weaken their resolve and cast doubt upon their abilities, but the Warrens remained resolute in their mission to break the curse. The stage was set for a confrontation of unparalleled danger, where the outcome was uncertain and the stakes were life and death. As they stood within the heart of Hollowbrook Manor, their hands trembling with the anticipation of the ritual, the Warrens knew that they were about to face the malevolent entity head-on, in a battle that would define their legacy as paranormal investigators. The forces of light and darkness were poised for a final, cataclysmic clash, and the fate of Hollowbrook hung in the balance. Chapter 8: The Final Battle. Within the shadowed heart of Hollowbrook Manor, the Warrens stood ready to confront the malevolent entity that had tormented the town for centuries. The time had come for the climactic showdown, the ultimate clash between the forces of light and darkness. As they began the complex ritual to break the curse, the malevolent entity launched a furious assault, determined to thwart their efforts. The very air trembled with its wrath, and the walls seemed to close in on them, a cacophony of otherworldly voices drowning out their incantations. The amulet pulsed with dark energy, radiating malevolence that threatened to engulf the room. Ed and Lorraine, their voices unwavering and their faith unshaken, pressed on with the ritual. Their connection, fortified by a lifetime of shared experiences and supernatural battles, was their greatest weapon against the malevolent force. The strength of their bond became a beacon of light in the suffocating darkness, a testament to their unyielding determination. As they chanted the ancient incantations, the room filled with an ethereal light that pushed back the malevolence. Shadows recoiled, and the very walls seemed to groan in protest. But the entity was relentless, retaliating with ever more powerful supernatural manifestations. Apparitions writhed and shrieked, and objects hurtled through the air with bone-shattering force. Lorraine, her psychic abilities heightened by the intense focus of the ritual, glimpsed visions of the malevolent entity's origins. She saw the entity's descent into darkness, its insatiable thirst for power, and the terrible deeds it had committed over the centuries. With this newfound insight, she understood the entity's weaknesses, its vulnerabilities that could be exploited to break its hold. Ed and Lorraine used this knowledge to counter the entity's attacks, evoking sacred symbols and prayers that acted as a shield against its malevolence. With every incantation, they drew closer to the culmination of the ritual, to the moment when they would break the curse and release Hollowbrook from the entity's grasp. The entity, sensing its impending defeat, launched a final, desperate assault. The room quaked as if it were on the brink of collapse, and the very fabric of reality seemed to unravel. Lorraine, drained but resolute, reached deep into the darkest recesses of her psychic abilities, unleashing a surge of energy that enveloped the amulet and the malevolent entity within it. With an agonized shriek that echoed through the manor, the entity was torn from the amulet and cast into the netherworld, its malevolence dissipated into the ether. The amulet, now free of its cursed influence, fell to the ground, its malevolent aura extinguished. The Warrens had succeeded in breaking the curse, and as the ritual concluded, a sense of profound calm washed over the room. The supernatural disturbances that had plagued Hollowbrook for centuries began to dissipate, and the walls of the manor ceased to bleed with dread. Hollowbrook was free, its long history of torment finally brought to an end by the unwavering determination of Ed and Lorraine Warren. The malevolent entity that had held the town in its grip had been defeated, its reign of terror vanquished. As the Warrens caught their breath, They exchanged a weary but triumphant smile. The battle had been fierce, and the price had been high, but they had prevailed against a supernatural force that had defied time and reason. Hollowbrook Manor, once a place of unspeakable horrors, was now bathed in a newfound serenity, its cursed history at last laid to rest. The Warrens had emerged victorious from the final, cataclysmic clash between the forces of light and darkness, their bond as unbreakable as ever, and their legacy as paranormal investigators forever etched in the history of Hollowbrook. Chapter 9: Sacrifice and Redemption. In the aftermath of the fierce battle to break the curse binding Hollowbrook Manor, the Warrens were left with a profound sense of victory tempered by sacrifice. The malevolent entity had been vanquished, and the town was finally free of the curse that had tormented it for centuries. Yet, the cost of this hard-won triumph weighed heavily on their hearts. As the Warrens caught their breath, they noticed the signs of wear and tear from their intense ordeal. Bruised and exhausted, they retreated to a quiet corner of the manor, their minds filled with a sense of accomplishment tinged with sorrow. The battle had demanded more than they could have imagined. During the climactic confrontation, Lorraine had faced a life-threatening ordeal, one that had tested her strength and resolve to the utmost. In the final moments of the ritual, the malevolent entity, sensing its imminent defeat, had launched a brutal attack on her, seeking to break her spirit and disrupt the incantations. Lorraine had been ensnared by the entity's malevolent energy, her very life force draining away as she fought to maintain the focus needed to complete the ritual. The pain and torment she endured were unimaginable, yet her determination to free Hollowbrook from its curse never wavered. Ed, helpless to intervene directly, had watched in anguish as his wife suffered. In that moment, he faced an excruciating decision: to stop the ritual and save Lorraine at the risk of allowing the malevolent entity to escape, or to press on and complete the ritual, potentially sacrificing the one he loved. The weight of the choice was unbearable. With tears in his eyes, Ed had chosen to press on, knowing that Lorraine would have made the same decision in his place. The completion of the ritual had come at a tremendous personal cost, and Lorraine had emerged from the ordeal weakened and changed, but victorious. The theme of sacrifice had permeated every aspect of their battle against the malevolent entity. Sacrifices made by the Thornton family throughout the centuries to protect the cursed amulet, sacrifices made by the townspeople who had lived in fear, and, finally, the selfless sacrifice made by Ed and Lorraine to ensure the entity's defeat. Their sacrifice had come at a price, and the toll it had taken on Lorraine was undeniable. Her psychic abilities had been permanently altered, and the emotional scars ran deep. Yet, the Warrens understood that they had succeeded in their mission to rid Hollowbrook of its curse once and for all. As they left the manor, their footsteps echoing through the once haunted corridors, the townspeople of Hollowbrook gathered outside to express their gratitude. The weight of the curse that had plagued their lives had been lifted, and the town was finally free to rebuild and renew. Ed and Lorraine had faced the supernatural with courage and unwavering determination, and their legacy as paranormal investigators was etched into the history of Hollowbrook. The sacrifices made during their harrowing journey were a testament to the enduring power of love and faith in the face of the darkest of forces. The Warrens left Hollowbrook, their bond as unbreakable as ever, knowing that their sacrifices had brought redemption to a town that had suffered for far too long. The legacy of their battle against the malevolent entity would live on as a tale of courage and sacrifice, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Chapter 10: Peace Restored. With the malevolent entity vanquished and the curse broken, Hollowbrook Manor stood bathed in an eerie, but profound, silence. The supernatural disturbances that had plagued the town for centuries had finally been silenced. The walls no longer bled with dread, the apparitions no longer tormented the living, and the dark history of the cursed amulet had been laid to rest. As the dust settled and the sunlight pierced through the stained glass windows of the manor, the townspeople of Hollowbrook gathered outside, their faces a mix of astonishment, gratitude, and relief. They had lived for generations under the oppressive shroud of the curse, a burden that had cast a long shadow over their lives. Now, the weight had been lifted, and the town was finally free. Elias Thornton, the manor's owner, stepped forward to express his heartfelt gratitude to the Warrens. With tears in his eyes, he thanked them for their unwavering dedication and bravery in facing the malevolent entity that had tormented his family for centuries. He knew that without the Warrens' intervention, Hollowbrook would have remained in the grip of the curse, a fate too terrible to contemplate. The townspeople, once wary and distant, now approached Ed and Lorraine with expressions of reverence and gratitude. The Warrens had not only freed Hollowbrook from its torment, but had also inspired hope and renewed faith in the human spirit. Their legacy as paranormal investigators had left an indelible mark on the town. As the days passed, Hollowbrook began the process of healing. The townspeople took back their homes and businesses, and the community was rejuvenated. The manor, once a place of terror, was transformed into a symbol of triumph, a testament to the power of courage and determination. Ed and Lorraine knew it was time to leave, as their work was done. They had once again confronted the supernatural and emerged victorious, bringing peace to a town in despair. The sacrifices made during their harrowing journey would forever be etched in their hearts, a testament to the enduring power of love and faith in the face of the darkest of forces. As they departed Hollowbrook, the townspeople gathered to bid them farewell, offering their deepest gratitude. The legacy of the Warrens' battle against the malevolent entity would live on in the town's folklore, a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit in the face of the unknown. The journey of Ed and Lorraine Warren continued, their bond as unbreakable as ever. They knew that their mission as paranormal investigators would lead them to new challenges and encounters with the supernatural. But for now, they left Hollowbrook knowing that they had brought peace and redemption to a town that had long suffered, leaving behind a legacy of courage, sacrifice, and hope. Hey there, fellow fiction enthusiasts. I hope you've been enjoying the audio stories on Muted Gamer Fiction as much as I've loved bringing them to you. Your support means the world to me, and today, I've got a small request for you. If you've been relishing these audiobooks and fan fiction tales, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, drop a comment, and, of course, subscribe if you haven't already. Your likes, comments, and subscriptions are like fuel to my storytelling fire, and they keep this channel going strong. I'd also love to hear from you. Whether you've got a particular fan fiction suggestion you're dying to share, or simply want to say hi, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. This channel is a community of like-minded fans, and your input is incredibly valuable. So, thank you once again for being a part of Muted Gamer Fiction. Keep those headphones on, immerse yourself in our stories, and let's continue this exciting journey together. Your support keeps the stories coming, and I can't wait to see what fan fiction ideas you have in mind. Happy listening, and remember to hit those like, comment, and subscribe buttons. See you in the next chapter.